Full narration. You've spent years planning for failure. Not consciously, not dramatically. But somewhere underneath everything you do, there's a version of the future you keep preparing for. The one where things fall apart, the one where the money runs out, the one where you lose what you've built, the one where you end up exactly where you were afraid you'd end up. You don't call it that. You call it being realistic, being prepared, being responsible. You tell yourself you're just being smart about money, that you're protecting yourself, that this is what adults do. But if you're honest, really honest, there's something else happening. You're not just preparing for the worst, you're almost expecting it. Every time something good happens financially, there's a quiet voice that says, "Don't get comfortable." Every time you make progress, something whispers, "This won't last." Every time you start feeling secure, there's an emotional reflex that pulls you back toward anxiety. It's not paranoia, it's not even pessimism exactly. It's something deeper than that. It's the way you've learned to survive uncertainty by never fully believing things could actually work out. And here's what makes it so exhausting. You can't even enjoy the wins anymore, because underneath every good thing, you're already bracing for the collapse, already scanning for the thing that's going to go wrong, already preparing the emotional narrative for when it all falls apart. But what if it doesn't? What if the thing you've been quietly preparing for your whole life, the collapse, the failure, the disaster, never actually comes? What if the life you're building actually works out? Not perfectly, not without problems. But what if it works out enough that you didn't need to carry all that fear? What if you've been emotionally over-insuring yourself for a catastrophe that never arrives? You probably don't let yourself think about that very often, because thinking about it feels dangerous, like you'd be tempting fate. Like the moment you relax, that's when everything would fall apart. But the truth is, you've been living like this for so long that even if things do work out, you won't be able to feel it, because you've trained yourself not to. That's the part nobody talks about. The hidden cost isn't just the stress. It's that when the thing you've been working toward finally happens, you won't even be able to receive it, because you never practiced believing it was possible. There's a version of you that's always running simulations, not out loud, not on spreadsheets, but emotionally, constantly modeling what happens if it all goes wrong. If you lose your job, if the market crashes, if your income drops, if an emergency happens, if someone gets sick, if everything you've built just disappears. And on the surface, that seems responsible. That seems like preparation, like you're being smart, like you're thinking ahead. But here's what's actually happening. You're not preparing for disaster, you're rehearsing it. Every time you run that mental simulation, you're not building resilience. You're deepening the emotional groove that expects collapse. You're training your nervous system to associate financial progress with inevitable loss. You're conditioning yourself to mistrust stability. And the worst part, you think this keeps you safe. You think that by imagining the worst-case scenario over and over, you're somehow protecting yourself from it. Like if you just stay afraid enough, reality won't catch you off guard. Like fear is a form of control, but it's not. What it actually does is make you incapable of experiencing security even when you have it. You could have 6 months of expenses saved, a stable income, no debt, and investments growing, and still feel like you're one mistake away from collapse. Not because the numbers say that, because emotionally, you've never updated your internal operating system. You're still running the software from when you had nothing. You check your accounts obsessively, not because you need to, because you're checking if the danger has arrived yet. You avoid certain financial decisions not because they're bad decisions, but because making them would mean admitting you believe things might actually work out. And you can't afford to believe that, because believing that would mean lowering your guard. And lowering your guard feels like the most dangerous thing you could do. So you stay tense, you stay braced, you stay ready for disaster, even when disaster isn't coming. And the years pass like that. You hit your financial goals, you build the stability you said you wanted, you reach the income level you once thought would make you feel safe, and somehow you still don't feel safe. Because safety was never the issue. The issue is that you never learned how to feel safe. You only learned how to survive feeling unsafe. And now, even when the conditions change, the feeling doesn't. You're living in a reality that's financially better than it's ever been. But emotionally, you're still living in a version of yourself from 5, 10, 15 years ago. The version that had to be afraid, the version that couldn't afford to trust anything. And that version of you is still running the show, because nobody ever taught you how to update it. Nobody ever said, when things get better, you're allowed to feel better. Nobody ever told you that continuing to live in fear after you've built stability isn't discipline, it's trauma. And the longer you carry it, the more it costs you, not in money, in the ability to actually live the life the money was supposed to create. There's a moment that happens sometimes when you're alone, late at night, lying in bed, and for just a second, you let yourself imagine it. The version of your life where things actually work out, where you don't lose everything, where the plan you've been working on actually works, where the future isn't a slow disaster, where you're not pretending to be fine while quietly falling apart. Just for a second, you let yourself feel what that might be like, and then you pull back, because it feels too vulnerable, too naive, too dangerous to believe in. So you return to the familiar feeling, the tension, the fear, the quiet preparation for collapse. Because that feeling, as painful as it is, feels safer. It feels like control. But here's the thing nobody tells you. That feeling isn't protecting you. It's keeping you hostage. You've built your entire emotional relationship with money around the belief that disaster is always closer than success. That loss is more real than gain. That the floor could drop out at any moment, and probably will. And because you believe that so deeply, you make decisions that reflect it. You don't invest when you should because what if the market crashes right after? You don't spend money on things that would actually improve your life because what if I need it later? You don't take opportunities because what if it's the wrong move? You stay small, you stay cautious, you stay inside the boundaries of what feels controllable, not because that's the smartest strategy, but because anything outside those boundaries feels emotionally unbearable. And the cruelest part, even when you do everything right, even when you save, invest, plan, build, you still can't relax, because relaxing would mean trusting that it's going to be okay. And you don't know how to do that. So you stay in a low-grade state of financial anxiety, not because your situation demands it, but because your nervous system does, because somewhere along the way you learn that safety is temporary and danger is permanent, that good things don't last, that the moment you let your guard down is the moment everything falls apart. And now that belief runs so deep you don't even recognize it as a belief anymore. It just feels like truth. But what if it's not? What if the reason you keep expecting disaster isn't because disaster is inevitable, but because disaster is familiar? What if the version of you that learned to survive by staying afraid never got the memo that you're not in survival mode anymore? What if your fear isn't protecting you from the future? It's protecting you from having to admit the past is over. Because if the past is over, that means you're allowed to stop living like you're still there. And that might be the most terrifying realization of all. Because if you're allowed to stop preparing for disaster, what are you supposed to do instead? You're supposed to live like someone who believes things might actually work out, and you have no idea how to do that. Here's the pattern you probably recognize. Every time you reach a financial milestone, a certain amount saved, a raise, a debt paid off, you feel good for maybe a day, maybe two, and then the anxiety returns. Not the same anxiety, a new version, a more sophisticated version. Before, you were worried about not having enough. Now, you're worried about losing what you have. Before, the fear was about scarcity. Now, the fear is about whether you can maintain this, whether it's real, whether you actually deserve it. The goalposts move, but the feeling stays the same. And you start realizing it was never actually about the money. The money was just the placeholder, the thing you told yourself would make you feel secure. But now you have more money than you've ever had, and you don't feel more secure. You feel more afraid, because now there's something to lose, and losing something you never had feels different than losing something you fought for. The stakes feel higher, the danger feels closer, the fear feels more justified. So you double down on the behaviors that got you here. You save more aggressively. You avoid risk even more carefully. You monitor everything even more closely. You tighten your grip. Because if discipline and control got you this far, then more discipline and more control should make you feel safer, right? But it doesn't. It just makes you more exhausted, because you're trying to solve an emotional problem with a financial strategy. And no amount of money fixes the belief that it's all going to disappear. You could have $1 million in the bank and still feel like you're one bad decision away from ruin. Not because that's rational, but because the feeling was never about the number. It was about something deeper. It was about whether you're allowed to believe you'll be okay. And somewhere along the way, you internalized the idea that you're not. Maybe it was the way you grew up. Maybe it was something your family went through. Maybe it was watching someone you loved lose everything. Maybe it was your own past. Maybe it was just the world teaching you over and over that nothing is guaranteed. Whatever it was, it left a mark, and that mark became the lens through which you see everything. So now, even when you look at your bank account and the numbers are good, you don't see stability. You see a countdown. You see something temporary. You see the gap between where you are now and where you could fall. And that gap is terrifying, because you remember what it felt like to have nothing, or to have just enough, or to be constantly afraid. And some part of you believes that feeling is more true than this one, that the fear is the baseline and everything else is just luck. So you prepare for the return. You brace for the collapse. You stay ready for the moment when it all makes sense again. When you're back to struggling, back to surviving, back to the emotional place that feels like home, even though you don't want to go back there, even though you've worked so hard not to, you still emotionally expect it. And that expectation shapes everything, the way you spend, the way you save, the way you plan, the way you feel about money, about progress, about your own life. You can't celebrate wins because you're already preparing for losses. You can't enjoy stability because you're already bracing for chaos. You can't believe in your own success because you're waiting for proof that it was all a mistake, and the proof never comes. But neither does the permission to relax, because you never gave it to yourself. If you've made it here with me, I want to invite you to